The first time Claire Whitmore allowed herself to take her daughter to a playground, she felt like an intruder in a world she no longer belonged to. Mothers in yoga pants chatted over coffee cups. Fathers in baseball caps pushed their kids on swings, laughter echoing across the crisp autumn air. Claire was a CEO who lived in a universe of glass towers and boardrooms, not mulch chips and monkey bars. Yet here she was, clutching her 7-year-old daughter's hand with quiet desperation, hoping this experiment would not end in tears. Her daughter, Lily, walked silently beside her, eyes wide and curious but lips pressed tightly shut. For 2 years, Lily hadn't spoken a single word, not to Claire, not to therapists, not even to her teachers. Doctors had ruled out physical causes. They called it selective mutism, linked to trauma. And though Claire never admitted it aloud, she carried the crushing guilt that her own choices, her constant work, her husband's absence, the coldness of their mansion had carved the silence inside her daughter. "Sweetheart," Claire whispered, crouching to Lily's level, smoothing a strand of golden hair behind her ear. "You can just a broken bar watch today. No pressure." Lily's blue eyes darted toward the playground where children climbed, shouted, and swung. She gripped her stuffed bunny tighter, her only constant companion. Claire swallowed hard, pulling in a breath that smelled faintly of fresh-cut grass and caramel apples from a vendor nearby. She felt wildly out of place. She knew mergers and acquisitions, but not how to guide a lonely child onto a slide. She sat on a bench, perfectly pressed slacks brushing against weathered wood, heels sinking awkwardly into the mulch. A few parents glanced at her, or she looked too polished, too corporate here. Claire opened her phone, more out of nervous habit than necessity, but quickly set it aside. If she wanted Lily to try, she had to be present. That's when she noticed him. A man stood by the swings, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing jeans and a faded sweatshirt. His dark hair was a little unruly, and his face carried the tiredness of someone who worked with his hands for a living. He pushed a boy about Lily's age, laughter bubbling between them like sunlight breaking through clouds. The boy's joy was contagious, his squeals piercing the air, and the man laughed along, unguarded and genuine. When the boy begged, "Higher, Dad, higher," the man leaned into the swing with an exaggerated grunt, making the boy soar. Their connection was effortless, like the air they breathed together. Claire couldn't look away. Lily, too, was staring, her small fingers loosening their death grip on the bunny. Claire glanced down, startled to see a flicker of longing on her daughter's face. The man caught Claire's eyes briefly and offered a polite nod before returning his attention to his son. But a few minutes later, as the boy raced off toward the slide, the man walked toward the bench. Claire stiffened instinctively. Men rarely approached her casually anymore. They usually came with contracts or agendas. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, voice warm, unpretentious. Claire hesitated, then gave a curt nod. "Of course." He lowered himself onto the bench with a sigh, stretching long legs out before him. "Beautiful day, isn't it? After last week's rain, I thought we'd never see the sun again." Claire nodded, unsure how to respond. Small talk wasn't her arena. She managed empires, not park bench conversations. He smiled gently, sensing her hesitation but not pressing. "That's my son, Jake, 7. He'd live on a playground if he could." Claire glanced at Lily, who clutched her bunny tighter but hadn't pulled away. "This is my daughter, Lily." Her voice faltered. "She's also 7. Jake bounded over just then, breathless from sliding. "Dad, did you see? I went down backwards." His father chuckled. "I did, champ. Pretty brave." Jake's eyes fell on Lily. "Hi. Do you want to play?" Lily froze, shrinking back against Claire's side. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came. Claire felt the familiar pang of disappointment, of helplessness. She smoothed Lily's arm. "She's shy," she murmured. But Jake wasn't deterred. "That's okay. We can just swing. You don't have to talk." Something in his matter-of-fact kindness made Claire's throat tighten. Children often turned impatient or dismissive when Lily didn't respond, but Jake seemed completely unfazed. He just smiled and ran back toward the swings. The man rose, brushing his palms on his jeans. "I'll give them space. Sometimes kids figure things out better without us hovering." Claire almost laughed at the irony. She hovered constantly, afraid Lily would sink deeper into silence. But she stayed seated, watching as Jake invited Lily toward the swing. He didn't demand, just waited with an open grin. After a long pause, Lily let go of Claire's hand and walked slowly, bunny tucked under her arm, toward the swing set. Claire's heart pounded. Each step felt monumental. Jake gently patted the empty swing beside him. Lily climbed on, tentative, her shoes barely scraping the ground. Jake began swinging lightly, not too high, showing her how. For the first time in months, Lily's lips curved into a small, fleeting smile. Claire pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. She hadn't seen that smile in so long. The man noticed too. "Looks like she's in good hands," he said softly. Claire blinked back sudden tears. She broken bar. She hasn't smiled like that in ages. The man studied her carefully but with no judgment. "Kids need kids. And sometimes a broken bar they need someone who isn't carrying all the weight." His words pierced her more than she expected. She looked at him, really looked, and saw weariness in his eyes that matched her own. A single parent too, perhaps. Over the next half hour, Lily didn't speak, but she laughed silently, her shoulders shaking, eyes crinkling as Jake showed her how to pump her legs on the swing. Claire felt something fragile yet luminous stirring inside her chest. Hope. When it was time to leave, Lily surprised her by holding Jake's hand all the way back to the bench. She didn't speak, but she didn't retreat either. As Claire rose, gathering her purse, the man extended his hand. "I'm Daniel," he said simply. "Jake's dad." Claire shook it, the warmth of his palm grounding her. "Claire." She hesitated, then added quietly, "Lily's mom." "Maybe we'll see you here again," Daniel offered. Not pressing, just leaving the door open. Claire nodded, her voice unsteady. "Maybe." That night, when Claire tucked Lily into bed, her daughter clutched her bunny as usual. But just before Claire kissed her forehead, Lily whispered one word, raspy and small but unmistakable. "Jake." Claire froze, breath caught in her throat, tears rushing to her eyes. It was the first word Lily had spoken in 2 years. She sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. "Sweetheart, a broken bar, did you just Lily's eyes fluttered shut, but a faint smile lingered on her lips. Claire tiptoed out of the room, collapsed against the hallway wall, and sobbed. For the first time in years, the silence had cracked. And the person who had unlocked her daughter's voice wasn't a specialist or a therapist who it was the kind smile of a boy and the steady presence of his father. And Claire knew, deep in her heart, that her world was about to change.